Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the VidMark podcast. I'm very excited for today's episode. We're going to be talking about Goodby and Silverstein, the marketing, advertising legends who are very well known for the Got Milk campaign, Cheetos, SEGA campaigns. You would know them. Just do a little quick Google research and I was just blown away. So I had the opportunity to take this MasterClass, which is an online platform which gives you access to a bunch of different presenters and teachers, and they happen to be one of the presenters. So I was really excited to take their class on kind of advertising in a nutshell and some tips on the industry, and I've compiled them into this review for you guys. So without further ado, let's get started. Welcome to VidMark, a podcast to give you the video marketing knowledge to always hit the mark. Let us help build your confidence with video strategy and content creation best practices. Join us weekly for pro tips and guest interviews as we explore the powerful communication tool of video. It's time to boost your business. Let's talk video. All right, welcome back. So I want to preface this by saying definitely go out and sign up for MasterClass and take this course. I'm going to give you guys just kind of an overview and some different things I took away, but please go out there and purchase this course, learn from them. You'll not only learn from Goodby and Silverstein, but they have a handful of other really awesome professors, people that you would know, actors, well-known physicists, etc., etc. So first thing that I took away was for Goodby and Silverstein, they really changed the game. They created a different culture within their ad agency, and they had a cool goal in mind. Their goal was trying to make the greatest advertising possible. So a little bit of a lofty goal, but I think they've succeeded for sure. And we're going to break that down throughout this episode, just what were those things that made their advertising so great and what makes advertising great. They talked about advertising, and I thought this was a really funny way of putting it, is that advertising is art serving capitalism. I don't know if a lot of artists love that, but I think it is the way that artists have found their way into the business world. And it's very, for myself, I see it as a practical art, that it's not only evoking an emotion, but it's evoking an emotion that eventually has someone take action, whether that's signing up for a newsletter, buying the product, etc. And they explain that people read what is interesting to them, and sometimes advertising can be interesting. And that was said by Howard Gassage, who's very well known in the advertising world. And I think for them, the key was to find advertising that didn't look like advertising, that kind of broke out of those norms. And I think that's why their ad campaigns have had such a long impact, and they're very respected and well known today. And then they break down just general tips of having confidence, whether that is believing in yourself. When you actually have the chops, you don't have to fake it. You actually are good enough. And just knowing that everyone has insecurities, and trying to rise above that and trying to see everyone's humanity through their advertising is a big part of it. In the next episode, they talk about how even for themselves, they first thought advertising was evil, and they really wanted to change that notion. They both come from very fascinating backgrounds. Silverstein worked at Rolling Stones, Goodby went to Harvard, and some of their advice that they gave that actually they did for their own careers was pick 3 companies and pretend like you work for them and create an advertising campaign for them. And I forgot which of them said this, but they wrote an autobiography about themselves, your classic cover letter, but they made it really funny, and actually that works to your favor in the advertising world. So they made it very lofty, sounding like, hey, I did X, Y, and Z, super outlandish thing, but it brought a smile and brought a sense of humor, and it actually kind of showed like another level of insight and knowledge to do something of that nature. Any other job, it might be a little bit tricky to do something of that nature, but in advertising, humor is welcomed. Being outside the box, being clever is very welcome. And they explain when you're starting out a an ad agency, it's nice to have a partner that balances out your thoughts processes, which is what both of them have done. A cactus knows how to survive. It can endure scorching heat, limited rainfall, and defends itself against critters daily. Your business is no different. To survive harsh conditions, it's important to develop deep roots using media content that'll continuously nourish and support your marketing efforts day after day. Tactus Media is here to help you determine a strategy and create media content. Together, let's map out the next sequence of videos, podcasts, and social media to help your business thrive. Work with Tactus Media. Media tactics that stick. Ouch! Visit tactusmedia.com to learn more. And then they explain just some of their own favorite commercials. When it feels right, it's just right. And a lot of this is kind of subjective of, what is emotionally resonating. And being willing to run with ideas. So they talk about, just having the confidence to really bring it forth, stick with it, and, continue to hone in on what you're trying to accomplish. And they said kind of early for them, what really helped is like not knowing the rules actually allows you to see things from a different lens or a different angle. I know for me in particular with the video production world, there's so many, it's a video, you can do whatever you want, or it's art, you can do whatever you want, but there's all these hidden rules that you have to kind of live by. And sometimes it can be a benefit to not know the rules because then you're not breaking something, unknowingly. But if you do know them, then you have to knowingly break them, which has its own merit to it. Then they dive into the Got Milk story, which is, a guy who's in heaven, has a cookie, but no milk in his fridge. So is he really in heaven? Uh-oh. And the Got Milk campaign, or the Got Milk story, was very successful because it wasn't just limited to one campaign. It became the whole, ripple effect. You may even remember the milk mustaches, which were super popular. And I thought this was a really cool test. They said that that your campaign has done well if this actually happened to him. He hopped into the cab and he asked them if they knew the Got Milk campaign, or they had already started talking to him about the campaign, and that's how it's really met a whole nother echelon. If advertising can break that mold of not just being something that people's eyes gloss over, but it actually becomes a part of pop culture. And then they talk about SEGA, which was a really big popular campaign, a little before my time, but they talk about like the SEGA voice. SEGA was something that I guess when they were filming on set, they actually had people yelling that while they were filming. So even kids were on board, and it was iconic. This part was kind of fun. I like that they had kind of like 5 tips, and one of them is like, don't copy, steal, which is a famous art quote. Be inspired by other people, but yeah, if you're able to like not copy exactly what it is, but copying the essence and bringing that over to another piece and magnifying that can be really beneficial. I thought this was really fun. Part of your job is not to do your job. They said spend 2 hours. He talks about a story where he was asked, how many hours a day do you write? And to sound smarter, he was like, I write 8 hours a day. He's like, that's way too much. You need to write 2 hours a day and, spend the rest of your time thinking about what you want to write. They say, run towards fire, take chances, seek out fame and fortune. Seek out fame. It's good for your career. It's good for your company. And resonate with your chief marketing officer. Be on the same page with them. I thought this was really helpful, especially in the video marketing world, which is, telling a story in 30 seconds, which is your standard commercial time. But, it's a age-old, time-tried thing, which is, have a beginning, a middle, and an ending. And let the audience decide how to feel about the piece. Don't say, hey, this is how you should feel. And this was a big takeaway for me is I think it's often easy to say, or even when you're about to show something to somebody, be like, oh, you're going to be so inspired by this, or this is going to make you feel really sad. Just don't say anything. Let them check out whatever the piece is and have them tell you how they feel about it, because your audience, you should treat them not like idiots, treat them like someone that actually can comprehend and understand things, and then you'll be pleasantly surprised. And I found this was a really helpful tip, is actually storyboarding out, but taking that to another next level, whereas you have your storyboard pieces, but do voiceover and add some of the music, so you can do a lot of that pre-production to get people into the feel of what it's going to look like, before you ever get to all the expenses of hiring a crew and bringing things together. There's a lot that can be done through those, like, I guess, concept art pieces. Like, we'll tell you, is this going to be a good commercial? Is it worth our time? Or, you can make some of those tweaks then in the pre-production before, which it's a little bit tougher when things are set in stone after, filming. They talk about the concept of, is it funny enough? Does it have, and things can always be funnier. They're never going to be funny enough, and what's funny to one person isn't going to be necessarily funny to another. And but they explain that with a lot of their commercials, they like to bring humor to it, because it's just a nice thing to bring happiness to people's lives. They already have so many other things going on. So if you can make someone stop, laugh, remember a brand, you're winning. And they explain that it should be timeless humor. It could be shown 5 years later, 10 years later, and the humor still resonates. Try not to make humor in a time capsule. And again, don't insult the audience's intelligence by explaining it to them over and over again, or saying how you should feel. And then they talk about pitching ideas. When you're pitching an idea, can you rationalize it? Can you defend it? Maybe you can pitch your idea to your friend or a family member, get their ideas. And they explain that at the end of the day, it is going to be something where you have to be bold and read the room, understand how is the client feeling. Are they at ease? Are you dressing properly? Are you clear and concise with your messaging? All of these things are important factors when it comes to presenting your idea. Get to know the person in charge, study creative directors, and then they explain finally that you make your own luck. So just keep working at it, and things are going to start to materialize for you. They talk about the anatomy of a campaign. It's better to have a full running campaign than a one-off. And they find that by bringing personality to an object or to something inanimate can actually breathe life into whatever it might be. So for them, breathing life into Cheetos, they were able to do this by creating a Cheetos museum. So a best looking Cheeto could go into this museum. Does it look like I forget some of the examples they had, but does it look like a cloud, or does it look like a shoe? Does it look like a horse? Any number of things. And they put these all in the museum, and they actually had a ripple effect, and some of these Cheetos sold on eBay. So that's how the campaign was super successful. Again, it bleeds into our day-to-day pop culture. And I kind of like their take on, Super Bowl advertisements. So they explain on Super Bowls, you want to be bold, you want to stand out, be iconic, yeah. And you want to, create something somewhat timeless. But at the end of the day, the people that are watching a commercial are usually, half drunk. They're already there watching it there for the football game. So when you come in with something very serious and you want the people to think about something and take action, that's probably not the right audience or the right time for that audience to, be engaged with something like that. So just something to keep in mind, that it really did context of where and when and how people will be receiving the content makes a big difference. And you say, keep it unexpected, put totally different people together. I think of that like, short Danny DeVito with really big Arnold Schwarzenegger, like two unlikely people, put them together, and, you'll have some interesting surprises that come from that. And this was a really fun quote that I took away, was that everything is advertising, and advertising is everything. And that really explains how that whole, capitalism art concept, the concept of pop culture reflecting in advertising, and then advertising reflecting in pop culture. And they explain that brands need to be socially conscious, and they need to connect with the consumer as best as possible. People might remember this campaign that they ran with Doritos, which was like a breathalyzer's bag I don't know if people remember that, but it was to help reduce drunk driving. So they had, like, I think there was a big party, and they had the breathalyzers, Doritos bag, passed it around, and people blew it. And if you blew negative, then you'd get a little code for an Uber ride home. So very thoughtful. It stretched the imagination of what the bag could do, gave the bag a little more personality. Not a ton, but it gave it just something beyond just being a bag of chips. So can you take a product and stretch it beyond its means, shake it up, make it something that people wouldn't even consider, and stretch the imagination? And I thought this was one of the nicer episodes as they were kind of wrapping things up. They talk about giving back. A lot of times for advertising, advertisers have guilt about what they are doing. And so it's good to give back, good to uplift others, maybe people that are younger in their career, or just be inspirational. We have a really awesome opportunity as a mass communicators to create things that are going to help, a nonprofit communicate their ideas. You're able to communicate change that you'd like to see in the world. You're able to communicate ideals, things that can actually make the world a better place. And we have that opportunity to be spokespeople for that. On winning clients and having projects, they explain that once you have the client, every meeting you have, or once you kind of sign them up for the first contract, or you're doing some work, every meeting is not then to win more work. It's actually you having to prove yourself again. So it's actually a chance to lose the work. So with that in mind, it keeps you sharp, keeps you fresh, and saying, okay, what can I do to help this client more? They actually talked about SEGA when they were pitching to them. It was really cool. They had every single person in their company learn a different game. Like that was their game. And then they had a big meeting. And if they needed to talk about any particular game, they could just ask the person who was an expert in that game. So I thought that was really going the extra mile and thinking creatively of how can they utilize their entire workforce to best serve the client. And then their closing thoughts on starting an agency. If you're listening to this, maybe you've started one, maybe you're thinking about one, or maybe you're just, an average person just wanting to make better videos. But at the end of the day, they explain for an ad agency, don't start a partnership unless you absolutely trust the person. And they explain, don't really think of yourself as an ad agency. What you are is you're communicating ideas and principles and storytelling to people. And they explain how you should work very diligently to create a culture within your organization. So everything inside should reflect what's outside, and everything outside should reflect everything that's inside. So for them, they had a very diverse staff, women as partners, they celebrate people, and they created a culture of humor and forgiveness. I mean, I got done watching this, I was like, man, who wouldn't want to go work for these guys? Because they explain how everyone has insecurities, but people shouldn't be too afraid to say anything. So creating a welcome space, and I really appreciate that because usually good ideas come out of bad ideas. But if you're afraid to say the bad ideas, then you can never get the good ideas. So it's kind of this vicious juxtaposition. They explain how working within a creative agency, you're gonna have eccentric people, and that's a good thing. You're going to create some outside the box work, and what they do is actually not all of it is work, business type stuff all day. They actually do funny videos that they share every year. So people are putting really high end production into making a funny video that's maybe, making fun of or in humorous jest about like the CEOs, maybe playing upon their tendencies, or maybe there was a scenario that happened that was pretty funny, or maybe making a music video, any number of things like that. So I really appreciate when brands don't just go, we're doing work all day long, but create opportunity, maybe 10, 15, 20% of the time, you're doing things that are enhancing the culture of the organization and stretching people outside of their normal limits. And what I find is often when you're stretching yourself outside those normal limits on something different, it finds its way back into the normal work. And so it has this kind of win-win mentality or win-win outcome. Well, I hope this has been helpful for you guys. I've kind of flown through a lot of these notes, but again, highly recommend go purchase MasterClass. Check out this series. I want to say it was about 2.5, 3 hours of content. Good series of videos, and you're gonna walk away inspired, learning a little bit more. I took away what was important for me, but maybe you'll find something that stands out for you. The world of advertising is always growing, always changing through the different types of technology that we have, but fundamentally at the core of it, you're still appealing to people, you're appealing to emotions, and you want to communicate ideals that are hopefully helping the world and hopefully taking things into a better place. So we have a huge responsibility as advertisers, as marketers, to do our diligence, do a good job, make the world a better place. So until next time, make sure your video marketing is always hitting the mark. Bye, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to VidMark, a place for all your video marketing needs. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite platform and tune in every Thursday morning on either iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, and more. For a behind-the-scenes look and some bonus tips, you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Until next time, good luck with your video marketing efforts, and remember, always hit the mark.